Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, party people, it's Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 157 of Gridiron Grinder, and we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium. Then we're going to cover the news from this past week. After that, regular season's here, folks. We're going to do our week one power rankings and game picks. And last but not least, we'll close things off with question of the week. And so, yeah, man, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. We got an early gridiron grinder, but it's the first one for the regular season. And so, pretty cool. And we both talked about it before the show. We got to work some bugs out with our models, but that's okay. We got time, right? So it's all good.
Yeah, it's weird. I think actually gonna go back to my model on a couple of them because there's some interesting picks there.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Well, yeah, I think we had 3 or 4 games this week that we're off on, and that can change obviously as we work our way to Sunday and whatnot. But we'll figure it out, and you got to start somewhere. So, um, yeah, I guess before we dive into all that, why don't you take us over and do a little name that stadium action?
All right. So I checked earlier yesterday. I didn't check that. I don't think I saw any takers on this,
Nope.
but as you can see, I'm traveling around, going to different stadiums that host NFL games, kind of tie it in somehow, some way to either the news of the week or what we're talking about, or it's just something that's going on in football. Um, and you guess, first person to guess right, you get that extra special shout out where we'll bookmark it. You can play it over and over to your friends, show everyone how smart you are. No, like we said, there are no takers for last week. Again, this week like 700 in a row with no takers.
I was
Uh,
told we might have a taker soon, James. We'll see. Some people are a little bit, a little bit gun shy. They don't want to put
yeah.
their name out there and maybe be wrong or whatever, but we'll
Well,
keep
hell, if
playing
you
and see if someone wants to take us on.
if they're wrong, as long as it makes sense, it's cool. But last week I was in Philadelphia. I I chose Philadelphia because like when we was going through the top 100, like and I kind of went through it and did a cursory review of my list, and it felt like I had a lot of people high up that were on the Eagles that I thought could be on the list or had an argument to be on the list. So I chose Philadelphia, and plus, I couldn't choose where I actually was last week, so hint.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Well, cool. Well, yeah, hey, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Maybe somebody will come out of the woodwork and play a little name that stadium.
Yeah, come on.
And in the
What's the worst
meantime,
thing that could happen? You guess wrong. Big deal.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so in the meantime, hey, we'll just keep moving on with the show. And so let's do our recap of the past week here, James. This one is hot off the presses. Nick Bosa has signed a massive 5-year, $170 million extension with the 49ers. A lot of people can breathe easy. He's going to be good to go for week one. He's getting a huge pile of cash. And yeah, man. So I'm trying to think. That's what, 35 million a year?
It's
30,
34
thank you,
apparently.
34 million a year. What do you know what Aaron Donald was at? Because he's the number
Aaron,
two guy now, right?
so I don't know what Aaron Donald was at 31.66
Okay, gotcha.
million a year. AAV. Bosa's at 34, apparently 122 and a half of it's guaranteed. Um, I just, we say it here every once in a while. It's just the salary cap's fake. Like it's
And it keeps going up every
yeah,
year, which is
like
fine, you know. But yeah, how could you afford all these players?
Yeah, no, you can't. You just you borrow from one year and move it
Yeah.
forward. I don't even know what the fuck they're doing.
And it probably
It's
helps that they
just
got Brock Purdy at quarterback.
true. They have Brock Purdy at quarterback, so they do have a quarterback on the rookie deal and kind of a lower end rookie deal because they got rid of Trey Lance, but they're still paying part of Lance's salary for this year or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I don't
Could
remember
be.
the terms of it. But I think they were picking they had some sort of hit for Trey Lance this year.
Gotcha. All right. Well, hey, listen, in other contract related news, there's a few other signings from this past week. TJ Hawkinson, former Detroit Lions first round pick tight end, current Minnesota Vikings tight end, traded out there last year. He has agreed to a 4 year, $68.5 million extension with the Vikings, making him the highest paid tight end. Uh, Pretty impressive. Good for him. I'm kind of glad that as a Lions fan, we don't have to bear the weight of that contract. But it did look like last year maybe he's finally turning the corner in living up to that high first round pick, draft selection.
Yeah, it's finally like I mean, it makes sense. So Lions draft people and never show their potential in Detroit, or they go out
Yeah,
and they sign somebody that had a good year somewhere else, and all of a sudden they're like, who
yeah,
the fuck's this person again?
back to the gutter. Well, and with
Yeah,
Hawkinson, go figure, it all happened last year in a contract year as well. So funny how that works.
yeah,
But no, that's all right. I mean, hey, if it's the last year of your deal, you got a lot more incentive to put it all out on the field, man. And the last one I got on the contract side is right tackle Terrence Steele. He has signed a 5 year, 86.5 million. I'm sorry, 86.8 million extension
hmm
with the Cowboys, and so kind of strange that they were, getting pinching the pennies a little bit with Zach Martin, but yet the deal with Terrence Steele got done like super smooth, and I'm sure there was a lot going on behind the scenes. The other one just ended up hitting the radar, but either way,
yeah,
good for him. Dallas is starting to put some big money back in that offensive line, but it's coming around, so that's how it works. You want to hang on to these guys, you got to pay them.
yeah, exactly. That's how it works. That's how it will always work. I mean, just print more money, create more fake cap.
Yes, fake cap. Yes. 15 void years on every deal, and
Mm,
yeah, fun stuff. And hopefully they'll close the loop on some of those in the next CBA just because it's a bit outrageous. But all right, so next up, James, I've got a couple player retirement announcements. Carl Nassib, the first openly gay player in the NFL, he has announced his retirement. He played 7 seasons, just over 100 games. Big inspiration for a lot of people to come out and have that courage to do that. And so that one made some waves. This other one, not quite as exciting, but I like the guy a lot. Kyle Rudolph, he was
hmm
a longtime tight end for the Minnesota Vikings. He has announced his retirement. He played 12 seasons in the NFL, 10 with Minnesota, one with Tampa Bay, and one with the New York Giants. And I think his Tampa Bay one was only like a partial season. But either way, really good tight end out of Notre Dame, and he had a pretty solid career. I know in recent seasons the production from a receiving standpoint kind of tailed off quite a bit, but pretty much throughout his career, a very well balanced tight end, good at blocking, good at making those catches when he needed to, and a lot of longevity, man. 12 years in the NFL, that's an impressive run.
Yeah, it is.
So then we've got a little bit of injury news, James. The first one is relating to tomorrow night's game. Travis Kelce had a scare in practice the other day, hyperflexed his knee, and it looks like it's just a bone bruise, and there's not going to be any long-term damage or recovery timeline. But his status for week one, which is just tomorrow, we're talking 24 hours from now, It's in doubt, and I'm hearing he's probably not going to play,
Hmm.
but could be back for week 2 depending on how things go. So, and then another big name guy, Cooper Cup. He had some kind of a setback with the hamstring injury that he had a few weeks ago in practice, and so he's now seeing a specialist, which anytime these guys go to see a specialist, it's not a good sign. And so I think for all of our fantasy footballers out there, if you haven't done your draft yet, keep that in mind. Cooper Cup, he had an ADP in like the top 10 or the top 15, depending on what program you're using. You definitely don't want to take that kind of a chance on a guy who the heck knows what's going on with that leg. So.
Yeah, yeah, and I actually, so I considered drafting him in the first round in our draft.
Okay.
Um, and but then like I was like, no, I can't draft him. He's hurt. Like, how long is he going to be hurt? And then Eckler fell to me. Even though I kept two running backs, I was like, I can't pass on Eckler. He was my number one running back
Yeah.
coming into fantasy. So
Well, and you got a flex spot, so
yeah, so I was like, I'll just go with what I know. But I deeply considered, but just I didn't hear all this other injury stuff with him because that didn't come out till today, or yesterday, whatever, after our draft. But I was seriously considering going after him in our fantasy draft, and
well, you
glad I
missed a
didn't.
bullet, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last two things I got, James, Jack Jones, the New England Patriots defensive back. I don't remember the whole situation with him, but apparently he was arrested at the airport for having two loaded guns in his carry-on bag. Yeah, pretty sure you're not supposed to do that. He's agreed to 1 year of probation and community service. And so I don't know what happens next, if this is something that Roger Goodell is going to be looking at and possibly doing some league punishment for it or whatever. But it sounds like the legal side of it has come to some kind of resolution.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it, but they dropped charges and some other shit.
Yeah, it was like 9 charges and like 8 of them were dropped or something.
Yeah. So it's 48 hours community service and 1 year of pretrial probation. He
Okay.
was arrested at Logan Airport. They found a Glock box with two guns and ammunition inside a bag with his name on it. He was charged with 2 counts each of unlawful possession of a firearm, carrying a loaded firearm, possession of a large capacity feeding device, and possession of ammunition without a firearm identification card. 2 counts of an airport security violation, possession of a concealed weapon in the secure area of the airport. Like, how the fuck did he have a gun in a secure area of the airport anyways?
Yeah.
Um, I was
Well,
just,
I think they identified it at the security checkpoint, right? And so, you could walk in and try to run your bags through, and that's where I thought that that's what I heard, is that it happened like right there. If he got past a metal detector and all that stuff, then it's obviously a little bit scarier of a situation.
yeah, like, so I'm not saying that he wasn't it wasn't at it, but it doesn't clearly say, like, they found a bag with his name on it is the weird part. Like,
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Um, I don't know. Did Homeboy have his entourage going through with him? And hey, Billy, you got to take this back through security for me.
push back. Okay, look, I'm sorry. I kind of diving into this. So apparently, the pretrial probation and 48 hours of community service is because it could, according to prosecutors, it couldn't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he had knowledge that he possessed the firearms in his bag at the time of the incident.
Oh, that sounds real weak.
Yeah. There's a. All right, here's the rest. Discovered in his carry-on luggage. Okay, so it was at the security checkpoint. So it was at the security checkpoint.
That's a relief.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard stories of guys getting through with stuff. It's
Yeah.
not 100%, but you want it to be pretty close to 100% if you can get it there.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, from what I'm reading is he's maintaining that he didn't realize it was in his bag,
Okay.
and he says,
Yeah, maybe he had some guys to help corroborate the story or whatever, and
yeah,
you
and
know.
his attorney said he had no intention of bringing any guns into Logan Airport that day. He had no intention of bringing any guns onto an probably airplane that day. I expect the evidence is going to show that he had no knowledge of what was going on. I don't
So
know. That's
just a horrible, horrible mistake.
yeah,
People make mistakes. That's a tough one, though. Bringing
yeah.
a
That's
gun to the
that's
airport and not knowing that you brought a gun to the airport. If you have a gun, you better know where it's at all times.
yeah. No
Oh,
shit. So he was facing 2.5 years if he was convicted
okay.
on just one of them. Two of the counts was if convicted for him. If convicted, he was facing 2.5 years. But so I mean, it's good for him.
Yeah, it sounds like he's getting let off easy. And hey, if it was an honest mistake, then okay, but it seems like a stretch. So, all right. So, James, the last thing I got here is that Brian Burns, big name pass rusher for the Carolina Panthers, he has started skipping practice because he is seeking a new contract, one of many. Nick Bosa just got his done. Chris Jones is sitting out right now. Indianapolis running back Jonathan Taylor, I mean, kind of sitting out. He got put on PUP. But it looks like Brian Burns' chances of playing in week one are now in question. And so that's something for some people to keep an eye on. Carolina, rookie quarterback, things like that. You got to kind of temper your expectations anyhow. But Brian Burns is like the backbone of that defense, and they definitely got some talent on that side of the ball, but would miss him if he misses any game action.
Yeah, exactly. I'd miss that, but I mean, for some reason it doesn't surprise me. But this late in preseason, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
it
know
seems
why
like
you.
he should have started that battle a little while sooner.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he was waiting because all the running backs and everybody under the sun was doing it, and he wanted to make sure that he was getting all the attention instead of getting lost in the mix.
True, but still stupid as fuck.
Okay, well, hey, that's all I had for the news, man. What'd you see that I missed that you want to cover?
So the only thing I really saw that you missed, let me just take a glance. Blah 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 blah. Only thing that I saw, it's so you know we both love Sean Payton as a coach.
Yes.
Did you hear what he said? Apparently said to Russ when Sean Payton got to Denver.
So I heard something earlier today, but I didn't know when the comment was made.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when the comment was made. I've been kind of half looking for that here and there. Let me see if it's in this article, but there's a piece.
Because I think if it was when he first went to Denver, it has a different amount of weight than if he just said it. Like if he just said it within recent days, I think it's a bigger deal because it means that something's still going on that's problematic with Russ.
Yeah. So I haven't read the article, but apparently he Wilson was blah blah blah. In a recent ESPN piece, Peyton told Wilson he needed to focus less on Russell Inc.
Yeah.
and said, quote, "Will you fucking stop kissing all the babies? You're not running for public office."
Okay. No holding back. I mean, that's something that a lot of players sort of alluded to, is that
Yeah.
Russ only cares about Russ.
So I'm trying to glance through this article on blah blah blah. I'm just glancing through it.
Sure.
There's this whole apparently somebody was golfing with Peyton. Blah blah blah. Joined Fox Sports. That's just blah. Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
Okay. So the
But
timing's unknown, but the comment still remains. You know, pretty much telling Russ, hey man, focus on the team. Stop focusing in on yourself.
yeah, basically, I'll see if I can find it
Okay.
later.
Sure. All right. Is that it on the news?
That's all I saw, really.
Okay. Well, we don't have to beat a dead horse, man. Let's move on to our week 1 power rankings. And so I'm pulling up my spreadsheet here, man. If you want to kick us off, give me your 1 through 5, James.
All right. So my 1 through 5, this
Yeah, and I
doesn't.
guess start by telling us how you came up with your initial power rankings.
So I came up with my initial power rankings with it was 100% based on my final record I had for each team.
Okay.
And then teams that had the same record that like I kind of just went with gut on them, like
Sure.
which this team's better, or like if they were in the same division and I had them with the same record, I would put the team that I had winning the division over the team with the same record that I had finishing in second place or in third place, like in order of where they finished in the division. So, and especially with Bosa signing, I have San Francisco as number 1. Yeah, you may say, but they have Brock Purdy at quarterback. Yeah, last year going into the season, I said 2 through 53, they were the best team in football.
I remember.
All they need is an average quarterback. That still holds true now. They got, I believe, actually ultimately got better this offseason, and they have an above average quarterback.
Okay.
So they have, I believe San Francisco has the best roster in all of football, and I have them going 15-2. Well, actually, it's going to be 14-3 now, but because that's a little.
Sure.
We'll get into that a little bit later, but I just think San Francisco is by and far the best team in the league, and they are also they have two of the worst teams in the league in their division. So they are my predictive Super Bowl champion this year with the
Gotcha.
49ers. Next, I have Philadelphia. Philadelphia is behind San Francisco, even though the last game they played, that Philadelphia beat San Francisco, which was last year. But they went kind of dropped below San Francisco because of the fact that they have some new pieces in that secondary that I have to see how they gel together before I can say that they're a solid team. But also they're one of the most variable teams I have.
Sure.
Because I could see them taking a step back this year and having a Super Bowl hangover. So I couldn't start out with them at number one anyways, because I thought San Francisco was better, but also because of those reasons. So I have Philadelphia at 2. Then I have Cincinnati. This is kind of a toss-up. It's kind of 2A and 2B because I couldn't break the tie between Cincinnati and Philadelphia that I had. It just, they're so close, and I have concerns with the other concern I have, which would have put it over the top for Cincinnati over Philadelphia, was Burrow coming into the season and the injury he had in the preseason. I want to see him actually be on the field before I can say that they're the number 2 or they're higher than number 3.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah.
So then I have the Chargers. 4 and 5, I have Chargers and Kansas City. I had them with the same record. They're in the toughest division, but I had the Chargers narrowly winning the division. So that's why I put the Chargers at 4 and Kansas City at 5.
Okay. All right, I gotcha. Yeah, so we've got decently different top 5. And so I guess just to start off, I did not base mine on my record predictions for the teams. And, there's all sorts of factors that go into that. And, looking out at the whole schedule and looking at suspensions with players and injuries and things like that, and whatever else. I just simplified mine for week 1 purposes, and I took the ratings for all 32 teams in my model for this first week. And I said, okay, spit out this number and tell me what it is. And I'm just going to put them in from there. And then every week that goes on, whether they're winning or losing, or I'm gleaning new pieces of information, then I'm going to start adjusting them in that sort of a manner. And so with that being the case, I've got Kansas City at 1, then Buffalo, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and the New York Jets. And so, maybe a little bit of a surprise to see the Jets creeping up in there that quickly with the Aaron Rodgers signing. But in my model, their defense is lights out. And the offense, with Garrett Wilson getting a bump from where he was last year, and then Rodgers coming in, you got Breece Hall coming back, hopefully healthy, but adding Dalvin Cook, yada, yada, yada. I do think there's some weaknesses on that offensive line, but all of the pieces are there where if they can gel, they can be a contender. And so that's my top 5. Why don't you give me 6 through 10, man?
All right. At 6, and this is a big departure from your list. Our lists are completely fucking different. Let's.
Oh yeah, we started in different places this year. Yeah.
How it is. I have Atlanta. I have Atlanta going 13 and 4 this season, which, I mean, you say, but they were 7 and 10 last year, or whatever the fuck they were. I don't care what the fuck they were last year.
Times change.
Ritter got some valuable playing time at the end of the season. To the number 1 rushing offense in the league, they added the number 1 weapon in the draft. This offense, it doesn't matter what Ritter can do. Ritter just has to play average. This offense is gonna put up points. They're gonna pound the ball down your throat and beat the shit out of you. And I just love that smash mouth running football. And so Atlanta's at number 6 for me. Then I have the Raiders. I flipped the coin here with 7, 8, and 9.
Okay.
So I kind of but with 7, I think the AFC is tougher. So 12-5 is a better record than a 12-5 in the NFC. But then 8-9, I flipped the coin between Dallas and Detroit, and because I had all 3 of these teams at 12-5. Dallas unfortunately won the coin toss, which hopefully that's not what happens when they play later in the year. But so I have Dallas at 8, and then Detroit at 9.
Gotcha.
And then I have Buffalo at 10. And yeah, Buffalo has been right there on the doorstep year in and year out. I think, but the thing with Buffalo is they seem to be taking a step back each year. They've been right there.
Yeah.
2 years ago, they were like 13 seconds away from whatever. Then last year, they lost like a round before to Cincinnati, who was one of my top teams all year. And I
But it
think
was
at
an
one point,
ugly snow game that should have favored Buffalo.
exactly.
Yeah. And
And
now Leslie Frazier's out, and yeah.
yeah, it's just with Buffalo, I want to root for them. I want to put them up higher, but I'm just not seeing it, especially with losing Edmonds. I
Hmm.
think that puts a big hole on in their defense.
I gotcha. Yeah, okay. And so for me at 6, I've got Baltimore. Then I've got the Los Angeles Chargers at 7. I got the Los Angeles Rams quite a bit lower. At 8, I've got San Francisco. 9, I've got Cleveland. And 10, I've got Dallas. So I kind of like my 6 through 10, except Cleveland seems a little bit high for me. Um, I think on paper they could make it to that level, but it depends on what's going on with Deshaun Watson and whether or not this new shotgun formation is going to still have Nick Chubb being effective.
Hmm.
But still, it seems a little bit steep. But this is where the model put him for right now, going into week 1, and so I'm going to run with it, man. And yeah, back to you at 11 through 15, dude.
And I also look and we have one team ranked the same in this entire list, which normally
Well, it'll converge with time.
it will. All right, so at 11, I have New Orleans. I just I want to like New Orleans. I might be high on them. I think people are overlooking New Orleans this year. Uh, I just because of oh well, Derek Carr and Dennis Allen can't coach and Derek Carr and this and that and Alvin Kamara suspension. I'm telling you, this New Orleans team is good. Without a decent quarterback, they were able to win, what was it, 8 games last year?
Yeah,
Nine
but
games
I
last
think
year?
that's where people feel, you know, underwhelmed is that the team had a ton of talent last year and they didn't get there. And so it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, you
but
bring in
they
Derek
had a
Carr, is that going to transform it? I don't know. I mean, it
they had a
could.
ton of talent last year. They played the entire season without their top wide receiver, and they didn't have a
Chris
quarterback.
Olave?
No, Michael Thomas.
Oh, I forgot he was still playing. It's been a
Um,
while, James. What's it been,
yeah.
3 years?
Well, okay. So 2 years ago he got hurt, and last year he got hurt, or set. I thought he got hurt last year. I don't know.
Yeah, he's been
Either way,
hurt forever. But yeah,
yeah.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah,
Right, but they were going into the season planning on him being their top receiver, and
yeah,
he wasn't there. And they didn't have a plan at quarterback.
you're right. They were rotating guys.
So I think that hindered them, and they still made a playoff push last year. So with Carr there for the full season, with the proper plans, which from what I'm reading, they're kind of been planning on Olave being the 1 and Thomas being the 2,
Yeah, which they should. Yeah.
which they should. I think that's going to fare very well for them. At
Okay.
12, I have Baltimore. The reason why Baltimore's at 12 and not 11, I just said AFC's tougher. So a record in the AFC is more impressive than a record in the NFC, with the exception of one of the exceptions is Baltimore, because of the simple fact that I don't 100% trust Lamar. Baltimore can climb the board very easily, but they're always going to be held back because I don't trust Lamar and his injury history. With Lamar, if he can stay healthy, team is great. It's
Yeah.
like last year with Lamar, they averaged 24 points a game, and without Lamar, they averaged 16 points a game.
Yeah,
I
dropped
mean,
off a lot.
that's a huge drop off, especially the backup quarterback.
Huntley.
What's his face? Huntley is kind of a similar style to Lamar, so it shouldn't be such a big drop off because you don't really have to change your offense. So I think as Lamar goes, Baltimore will go. At 13, I have the Giants. I really wanted the Giants to be lower on this. I really don't like this Giants team, but I couldn't justify putting them behind Seattle or putting them behind Miami, who I have the next two, because there's question marks on those two teams also, and like
Sure.
the teams after Miami, like there's either question marks or I don't 100% trust what my eyes or what my gut's telling me on them. So it's just how it fell out this week.
Okay. All right. Well then, yeah, for me going over 11 through 15, I've got the New England Patriots, Pittsburgh Steelers, Miami Dolphins, Detroit Lions, New York Giants. And so I'm okay with this, except for New England. Seems a bit steep for me. This is similar to the Cleveland one. It's almost like the model has them like, in the stock market, they'd say it's like price to perfection. It's like the model must have some legacy Belichick waiting in it
Mhm.
and expecting the offense to come around with Bill O'Brien there or whatever. But that's what I'm really hesitant on. The other teams here, Pittsburgh, Miami, Detroit, New York Giants, I like them in this range. I like them a lot in this range. And I thought it was nice that Detroit and the New York Giants kind of were like next to each other on my list here. When I look back at last year, we saw Brian Dable turn that Giants team around. We talked a lot about, oh man, we thought that was going to be the Lions this year, and then at the end of the season, Dan Campbell got the Lions roaring, and it's almost like had some similarities, except the Giants got a little bit further, made it to the playoffs, won a game. But I look at them kind of in the same bucket, and so I like that they ended up on my list pretty similarly. Back to you at 16, man.
All right. 16, I have the Browns. Like you said, you thought 9 was a little high. I thought that was a little high too for them. I just I have a lot of questions with them. And if Deshaun is Deshaun of 3 years ago, then I could see Cleveland going higher really quick. If Deshaun is Deshaun of last year, I could see them actually dropping on this. Now
Okay.
then I have Pittsburgh. I'm really high on Pittsburgh coming into this year. I was really low on them, and like it's climbed up a little bit
Yeah.
and keeps climbing up because like the more I see and the connection with Pickett and Pickens and how that defense is playing, which I was surprised on where that defense was ranked in ADP for fantasy. It really shocked me.
Yeah.
Um, then 18, I have the Bears, and 19, Minnesota. I like Justin Fields. I like what I'm seeing with the Bears. I like um, the addition of DJ Moore. DJ, yeah,
Yep.
DJ Moore. Um, 19, that's the one that we have the same,
Uh,
which is funny that it's the Vikings because we're both really high on Cousins. We don't trust the team. I'm assuming that's the same thing you're going to say is like
yeah.
I really like Cousins and want him to do well, but you can't trust that team. That team seems to disrespect him and not utilize him. Plus, they just got rid of Dalvin Cook, and have concerns of
Oh, and the defense
Mattis.
looks like dog shit, and
Yeah,
so yeah. And
Yeah.
last year was just a fluke. I mean, they won, what was it, 11 one-score games? I mean, it's just not,
Yes, something ridiculous like that.
let's just say you split that and your record goes down to, 7 or 8 wins. I mean, it's
Yeah,
tough.
exactly. And then at 20, and this has to be, and I purely went on my projected, my final projected, what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, COVID fog. Record. Final projected record from when we did our show. I didn't change. I haven't changed the projected records from then. But the more I read and the more I watch Jacksonville, this is probably the lowest going into the season that I've ever had my projected Super Bowl runner-up.
Okay.
Yes, I just said Jacksonville's going to the Super Bowl. I love this Jacksonville team with Ridley there now, and you have
Yeah.
back from the suspension. Like the team it was coming together at the end of the year. They didn't lose any fuck, words are escaping me. Any the pieces they lost weren't.
Yeah. I think for them, the question is, how much better are they going to be on defense?
Yeah.
Because offensively, for sure, all of the pieces are there.
Yeah, which the defensive end linebacker Josh Allen.
Yep. And then, yeah, they got the younger guy,
Right,
Trayvon
but
Walker.
this was the first year, like for some reason, there's just, I thought it was weird. I didn't really delve into it, but he wasn't voted a captain on that defense for like the first time in like 5 years.
Oh, wow. Who beat him out? Do you know?
No, I don't know. I didn't go
That's
into it
okay. That's
much. I
okay.
just
You
saw
don't
it.
have to.
I'll
I was
look it
just
up while.
curious. Sure. Yeah, well,
Well,
I'm
no,
giving you mine.
yeah.
All right. Yeah,
So,
well, while you're looking that up, so I got Jacksonville at 16, and I wanted them higher, but, week one here, I'm going with the model. 17, I've got the Broncos. 18, I've got the Titans. 19, I've got the Vikings. And 20, I've got the Falcons. This is where my board starts to get a little bit wonky, in my opinion. And so 17 with Denver is definitely high. And I think that Sean Payton getting added into the model is giving him a huge boost because I have him as one of the higher rated coaches. And so that factor is like completely transforming their ranking. Um, Tennessee, I can see them being here, and we got to watch them play and figure out, can Vrabel work some magic, or are they going to fall on their faces? Because we know the talent is going the wrong way. 19 with Minnesota. I think we kind of already covered them. I think last year was a bit of a fluke. I got to see more of it. I don't know that they can just keep winning offensively, and I believe the defense is going to be worse than last year, which was already pretty darn lousy. And then at 20 with Atlanta, I like everything you're saying about Ritter in that running game, and I want Atlanta to be higher. This is one where in my model, I think we've talked a little bit about it with lineups. A lot of times these younger guys, especially rookies, lineups just puts every rookie at a 67 overall. But then
mhm.
even second year players and sometimes even third year players, their ratings boost lags where they're at on the field. And so I try to go in and manually adjust them. But if you have a younger team, sometimes it's tough to get them where they need to be.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's what's going on with Atlanta. And part of it is that Ritter really is, I can't like give him like a 10-point bump until I see what he can do in a regular season game. And so if he comes out and he shows that consistency, that poise, whatnot, I could see that significantly boosting them in my model.
Yeah. So when I went into it for Josh Allen, first thing I see the reason why he wasn't voted a defensive captain because he was the only Jaguars player not to attend voluntary OTAs.
Oh, Well, they're sending a clear message there.
And so their captains are Lawrence and Scherf on offense, and Roy Robertson Harris,
Oh, I like him.
Foy, Lachlan,
Oh,
Foysad,
yeah. I don't know how to
and
say it. I know what you're talking about.
Andrew Wingard.
Okay.
Andrew Wingard and Robertson Harris are first-time captains. And just in case you were wondering, the Detroit Lions have Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penny Sewell, Alex Anzalone, Charles Harris, and Jalen Reeves-Maybin
Oh.
as their captains.
Oh, that's nice. They got Reeves Maben as a captain, man. I like him. I like that we brought him back to Detroit.
Yeah, so
All
because
right.
I knew
Well,
that
that's
was going
cool.
to be your next question was who the Lions pick as captains. Apparently, Kansas City hasn't picked captains yet.
Okay. Well, we
Um,
know Mahomes will be one, but that's
yeah.
okay. All right. Give me 21 through 25, man.
All right. At 21, I have the Jets, and I notice you have the Jets in your top five.
Hmm.
I just have I have a lot of concerns on Rodgers, and based on last year, Rodgers didn't look like Rodgers, and I'm hedging my bet. I think he's dropped off a little bit,
Okay.
and that's why I'm going to keep the Jets here until he proves otherwise. 22, I have Carolina. I like what I'm seeing in Carolina. I like what they're building. They're a year or two away from being serious contenders.
Yeah.
So they'll be at 22. This is probably possibly they may stay here, depending on what happens around them. But I think really 22 feels about right for Carolina and what I'm seeing on that team. 23, I have New England opposite you having them at 11. I did not consider the legacy at all in my rankings,
Probably
and
rightfully so.
and I really think that I think there's a possibility that Belichick could be fired after this year.
There's a lot of people pegging him as fourth in their division, man.
Yeah. And I have them as fourth in the division too. So 24, I have Tennessee. It kills me to have Tennessee this low, especially how much I
Yeah.
like Vrabel. But I mean, each year in and year out, that team gets less talented on paper.
Yeah.
It's like they're setting Vrabel up to fail, and it's sad. 25, Houston. You know, this is kind of a little low feeling for me for Houston because, and I think this is like the feeling wise is because of how hyped I am on what they did in the draft and how
Yeah.
aggressive they were in the draft, and and then you have, but where is this team legitimately?
Yeah.
And that's a struggle for me because I'm so hyped on them because of how aggressive they were in the draft. And I think D'Amico Ryans is going to do great things there. I just think it's going to be a year or two before he builds up the talent by being aggressive in the draft like they were this year.
I agree, man. It's still very early in a rebuild. Okay, so at 21, I've got the Saints. 22, I've got the Commanders. Then I've got the Seahawks, the Raiders, and the Bears. Uh, Seattle is low here at 23, in my opinion. Um, I mean, I just covered it. Lineups, it's got a lot of their guys rated lower. I've tried to manually boost them, and this is as far as I got. As the season goes on, I expect Seattle to continue to rise because they were definitely way ahead of schedule last year, but they did enough to prove that they belong higher than this and better than this in the model.
Hmm.
At 25 with the Bears, I can easily see the Bears beating this because Justin Fields is such a wild card, and they put a lot of talent around him. Offensively, they can win some games right there. I think the model is really struggling with their defense. They did beef up the linebackers, but they look really weak on the defensive line and in the secondary. And so I think that there's some issues where they can be exposed. So it's going to be a matter of, can they win these games on offense? And we know in this day and age you can. especially with a running quarterback like this. But I got to figure out how to fine tune the model to reflect all that in there. So
Yeah, which makes complete sense. And I agree with you on Fields. Also with Chicago, his health is very important because
yeah.
that's a huge drop off after Fields.
Oh yeah. Back to you at 26, man.
26, I have the Rams. You may say this is a little high for them, but remember, I went solely on record
Sure.
that I was mostly on record that I was projecting for them, and I could see this being like the top of where the Rams will be rated in my
But does your record
power ranking.
change if Cooper Kupp is out for significant time? Maybe.
I don't I don't think so.
Okay.
Give me
I mean, 4 wins is kind of low. So,
yeah,
you know,
because
they still got Stafford, they still got Aaron Donald. You'd think they could squeak out 4 wins. You just never know.
so if Cup is out past week 5, maybe, but I have them starting 0-5.
Okay. So, yeah, it's probably not a factor.
Yeah. 27, I have Washington. I'm really high on uh,
Sam Howell.
Sam Howell and Johan Dotson.
Oh, yeah, I like Dotson a lot.
I'm really high on those two. They need to figure out what they're doing at running back and if it's going to be
Yeah.
Brian Robinson or Antonio Gibson.
I think they're going committee, but yeah.
Yeah, but they have to have they're going to need that workhorse. And I think their record hinges on I think if they go with Robinson, the record will be higher than if they go with Gibson
Okay.
as the dominant back because I just think Robinson's just slightly
Yeah.
better.
You get two different styles. You got a north-south guy, and then you got really a receiving back in Gibson. And I keep hearing a lot about how Bieniemy wants to get Gibson more involved because he can catch the ball and do those things out of the backfield. But I'm with you. I think traditional running back, Brian Robinson is the man. It's just if they're going to get involved in these gadgets and other shit like
Hmm.
that, then let the chips fall where they may.
And exactly. And then 28, I have Denver. Um, I'm not impressed with Russ anymore. He's past his
Russ Inc.
prime. The more shit I read about him, the more, the less I blame Nathaniel Hackett for last year, the more I blame Russ.
Okay.
Like he had his own private office away from where the players generally were and had an open door policy as if he was a coach. Man, fuck
Yeah,
you.
that's just I don't know.
29, I have Tampa Bay. Look, if Baker plays to his potential, Tampa Bay has a chance of making the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
Will he play up to his potential? Probably not. He hasn't yet. He's played 2 games or 3 games in the last 5 years or 4 years up to his potential. And he has to show it. 30, I have the Colts. I am really high on Richardson, like you pointed out, high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
When I drafted him, right now, this is my draft for him in fantasy is because this is the last year I can keep Burrow,
Sure.
and my mo is to find that quarterback that's gonna be my next keeper. That's gonna be my backup, probably my backup this year. I only really have to play them in week 7, which was against. I looked it up, and they play week 7. They play Cleveland,
Sure.
and I thought Cleveland was ripe for Richardson having a dominant game. Plus, I'm really high on what Steichen can do with the running quarterback like Richardson, similar to what he did to Jalen Hurts last year.
Yeah, no, I think the keeper strategy is spot on. Next year he could be a serious factor for you. So, okay, at 26, I got Tampa Bay. 27, I've got the Texans, then the Packers, then the Panthers, then the Rams. And yeah, I'm with you on Tampa Bay. I think they have a lot of talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball. The issues to me are coaching, quarterback, and offensive line. And those are hard to correct, especially when we know the offensive line has like major issues. Baker can hypothetically play better knowing that he's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but then you still have the coaching. And I think Todd Bowles is a great defensive coordinator, maybe one of the best in the league. I just haven't seen enough out of him as a head coach to believe that he belongs there as a head coach. And then with 28 with Green Bay, so that's one that's tricky because I think it's largely going to depend on how ready Jordan Love is to be a QB1 in this league. Um, and I think his coach is trying to get behind him and support him. I do think Green Bay's roster is pretty well talented. They do have young receiving weapons, but pretty much everywhere else on the roster, they're very well established. And so
Hmm.
I think Green Bay could easily beat this. It just the quarterback's going to be a driving factor for that.
That was the piece of news that you'd missed. I was reading. I just saw that there's a potential that uh, Dobbs and Christian Watson could be out week 1 for Green
Oh
Bay.
shit, both of them?
Hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I just saw it and I wanted to get back to it, but
Yeah, that would change things.
yeah, where the fuck was it? I'll have to find it again, but there was something I saw about it.
Okay.
But anyways, I'll go to the dumpster fire.
Yeah, give me your first version of the
So
dumpster fire.
my first version of the dumpster fire is I have Arizona at 31. I think Arizona is going to be trying to give away this season. I don't think they have much of any talent there.
Okay.
The only reason why they're not 32 is because I really do not think that Jordan Love is an NFL quarterback. And
Okay.
until he proves me wrong, I will always not think that Jordan Love is an NFL quarterback. So,
Yeah, if he's not the guy, some guys are getting fired this
mhm.
year. All right, so yeah, for me, I've got Indianapolis at 31, and then I've got Arizona at 32. The Colts, I think, with Anthony Richardson, it's all about next year and what happens from there. I think this year, you have a very raw rookie quarterback that is not known for his passing. He is known for his freak physical ability, and so I think that could, uh, you just got to be patient with that on offense. Making it more complicated is that the offensive line played like shit last year. They're going to make his life hard if they don't play better this year. And their best weapon, Jonathan Taylor, is on the pup list and then maybe holding out thereafter. So, offensively, they've got some issues. On the defensive side of the ball, that's another area where last year was messed up. You had Shaq Leonard, with all of his issues not playing and things like that, and then just the defense in general, very underwhelming last year. But Arizona, they're at the bottom of the bag for me. I just, man, at least until Kyler Murray gets back, I don't see them having really a shot in hell to do anything, and I don't want to say it that extreme because sometimes these rookie head coaches, the mystery of what they're going to do on offense and defense can help keep them in games or even maybe even win a couple games here or there. But like you're saying, I'm with you, man. Talent wise, they are the worst roster in the league by far and away right now. And so especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I got them at 32. Maybe he can pull a rabbit out of his hat there and make them better than that, but I don't see it happening. All right, so that's the week 1 power rankings. Why don't
So
we
to
move?
to Dobbs and Watson.
Yeah.
So Watson missed practice today due to a hamstring injury, and Dobbs has been out of practice for 2 weeks with a hamstring injury.
Oh, gotcha. Geez, I don't know how I missed that with Dobbs. I didn't realize he was even out. Okay. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on it. That would be a big deal for them. I mean, they've already got a very thin receiver group. So, but all right, James, why don't we go over and let's do our week 1 game picks here. And so we're going to start off with tomorrow night, Thursday night football. We got the Detroit Lions at the Kansas City Chiefs. Who do you like in that game, bud?
Give me one
Yeah, take your
second.
time, man. Do you want me to give you my pick and my comments while you're
Nope,
preoccupied?
nope, I'm good.
Oh,
All right. So I'm on Detroit in this game, and the tipping point in this is if Kelsey's playing. If
okay.
Kelsey's playing, my model has Kansas City winning fairly handily. If Kelsey is not playing, I have it much closer. I have it as more of a pick 'em. On top of that, with Chris Jones, yes,
Mm-hmm.
Chris Jones being out or not signed yet, that has some concern for that defense. So I'm gonna go pending the Kelsey injury. I'm gonna go.
Kansas City, and you might flip it tomorrow if you get some news on Kelsey.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So I'm going Kansas City here. It's a tough one for me. You know, we're both obviously Lions fans, which makes us a little bit biased. And I do believe that you can write a narrative that supports Detroit pulling off the upset. I'm going to save some of that for later because I've got something for question of the week that's going to relate to that. But the problem I have is ultimately my model. Even when I take out Kelsey and I take out Chris Jones, oh man, it's just too far apart. And so I think the spread right now is 4. My model's got Kansas City by 12. And so I don't like that it's that far apart. I think I gotta bring down Kansas City, and I probably also have to find some ways to boost Detroit. But it's also one of these things where Detroit's got to prove it on the field, man. Like we get so wrapped up in drinking that Kool-Aid every year that, I don't want to forget Kansas City's the reigning Super Bowl
Mhm.
champion. They are playing at home. And so even though Detroit's riding the hype train, oh man, it takes a lot to knock off the champ, man. So I'm going Detroit here. I'm going
Oh,
Kansas City here. Sorry.
no, that's mine's pending change. I can see that, and I looked it up. It's currently 4.5.
Okay.
Is the
Yeah, I mean,
spread?
I'm still more than twice the spread.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to Sunday, man. Our first game, we got the Panthers at the Falcons. Who do you like there?
So when I modeled this, it was actually a closer game than I thought.
Okay.
Like my gut on it is like, oh, Atlanta's much better of a team than Carolina where they are. Like Carolina's a year behind Atlanta, so um,
Did you have Brian Burns in or out of your model? I just want to ask you that.
I had him in.
Okay, because mine was similar. They were tighter, and then I ruled him out because I got this contract thing going on, and my model widened when I moved him out, and
Yeah,
so that might be something to keep in mind. But keep going, man.
yeah. So I'm on Atlanta. My model has Atlanta winning a close one, but I can't make an argument for Carolina to win this game.
Okay.
If it was next year, maybe.
Yeah.
maybe you can make an argument one way or another, make more of an argument for Carolina to win the game because what's his face, Bryce Young has more experience. Who he looked good in preseason. He looked like he was getting it, but it's preseason. Once he has that real live NFL game
Yeah.
experience, maybe you could make the argument for Carolina, but I can't see him winning week one.
Yeah, I think it'd be tough. He's going on the road, and it helps that Atlanta has a weak pass rush, and so
Hmm.
maybe that'll give him a little bit to work with. But yeah, so with my model, James, with Brian Burns in, I had Atlanta winning by 3. With him out, I have Atlanta winning by 6. And so I've got Atlanta winning either way, but you can see that he is a factor on how tight that spread could be. And so, and it is kind of strange because when I look at my heat map, and I know I did this a lot last year, it's almost all green for Atlanta. But when you go and you look at their ratings, they're actually very close in their ratings. It's just that Atlanta has the edge in almost every position group. And then, of course, they're like a mile ahead at running back. And so I definitely like Atlanta here, man. Next up, we got the Texans at the Ravens. Uh,
Like I said, Lamar Jackson is playing. They'll score at least 26. I actually have this is like my widest spread in my model. I have it 31-12
okay.
Baltimore. So I'm on Baltimore all day and all night in this game. Like this is actually my survivor pick for the week.
You just think it's a lock?
Yeah, it's a complete lock. There's no Houston has no chance whatsoever.
All right, all right. Well, yeah, I mean, hey, I'm with you. I've got Baltimore. I think it's a very tough test for Houston coming right out of the gate, having to play the Ravens. And, this is one where you would almost like to have had Houston play a softer week one opponent
Mhm.
because, kind of like Detroit, they're riding that hype train right now going into the season with DeMeco Ryans and all the things that they've done for that roster. But Baltimore is just an established force, and I don't see them staying in that game. I think Lamar is fired up with all of his new weapons, and it's just going to be tough. So my model has Baltimore by 14 in this one, and yeah, I can't find a good narrative to go against that. So next up, James, we got the Bengals at the Browns.
This game kind of hinges on Watson. In my model, I have Watson rated as the last year Watson, what we
Okay.
saw, what we've seen most recently for him, and it has it as a very close game. Um, if I don't think Watson is Watson of 3 years ago, or we saw when he was playing last time he played in Houston. I don't think he's that Watson anymore. I think too much time has gone by for him. He just that whole season not playing really hurt him.
It's hard to come back
Um,
from missing a year, man.
I also do have Burrow downgraded a little bit in my model because of he's coming off injury and I haven't really seen him. So he hasn't really played in the preseason, so it might take him a series or two to get up to speed. So I'm gonna go with Cincinnati on it, but I could see I'm gonna go with Cincinnati on it. I'll
Okay.
leave it that rest for question of the week.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good to me. I've got the Bengals here also. My model has them by 8 in this game. Like I've talked about, I'm really interested to see how Cleveland utilizes Nick Chubb. I think they're going to be wasting some talent by moving to the shotgun, and
Mhm.
so I don't know, but we'll see. They could do fine. Hard to say. But the interesting thing for me when I look at the heat map here is that aside from running back, where Cleveland should have the advantage with Chubb over Mixon, Cleveland was surprisingly in the green on the offensive line, the defensive front seven, and the defensive back four in my model. I would have thought Cincinnati would have been better, in at least the two defensive categories. And so, or at least the defensive front seven, anyhow. And so that's something that I'm going to have to do some more digging into because, well, I guess, because you got Myles Garrett, you got Zadarius Smith now on Cleveland. Maybe that's what changed it. But either way, my model still has Cleveland or Cincinnati by 8 rather, and so I'm comfortable with that pick. All right, next up we got the Jags at the Colts, James.
So I just got done talking about how Jacksonville is my Super Bowl team. Part of that is a product of their division and product of who they play, because the AFC South, I believe, if I remember, let me double check this, because I believe the AFC and NFC Souths match up this year.
Okay.
Atlanta, yes, they do. Which those are two of the weaker divisions in football. So Jacksonville, I think, is a Super Bowl contender. I have them going to the Super Bowl this year. I really like what I see in Jacksonville. I don't, while I'm really high on what Steichen can do with Richardson, I think it's going to take time.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take a couple weeks of regular season football for Richardson to really show what he can do in the NFL. I'm really high on Richardson. I think he's going to have. I mean, we talked about it. I'm projecting him to be my keeper quarterback going into next year. That's how good I think he could be. I'm going to go with Jacksonville in the game. My model has a 10-point game.
Okay. That's not too shabby, James, because this is actually the one in my model that has the biggest spread. So I've got Jacksonville winning this one by a bloodbath, 16 points, which is probably one of the bigger spreads that my model would even get to. And it's tough. You've talked about, you've got Richardson, very raw, very unproven. And then on the other hand, you got Jacksonville poised and ready to make a playoff push. I can see Jacksonville coming out of the gate, and even though it's on the road, just asserting their dominance because they want to get off with that inertia to carry into the rest of the season. And so, I think for Indy, the key for this game is get Richardson some exposure, but you got to make sure you keep him safe. Don't have him run the ball 50 times and get all sorts of banged up. Get out there, but be smart with him and make sure he comes out clean because, like you're saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint for this guy. You got to pace it. Next up, we got the Buccaneers at the Vikings.
So we just got done talking about how Minnesota won, 12 games last year by one touchdown, or 11 games by one touchdown, or in one score game, sorry. I hate to predict it coming off the bat, but Minnesota wins another one-score game here. I'm surprised that it was this close. I don't know what I did. I think there's something weird going on in my model. We'll get to it in a couple games, 2 games from now.
Sure.
But I'm going with Minnesota in this game, and I have it as a field goal game, 24-21.
Nice. We're on the same page there. I've got the Vikings by 3, and I think that this is a game to pay close attention to in terms of tweaking our models after this week, because we know there's a wide range for Tampa Bay, and there's obviously a wide variance with Minnesota, especially compared to any other analyst out there. They've got them, pretty much as high as they were last year, and so I'll keep an eye for future reference, but I've got the Vikings by 3 as well. Okay, next up we got the Titans at the Saints.
So, I think this one is, because on paper this is not that interesting of a game. I think I think this is actually going to be an interesting game. I have a similar score in this game as I did to the Minnesota Tampa Bay game. I have it 24-20 New Orleans. I just think New Orleans is just that much better than the Titans. There's a lot I need to see with the Titans to
Yeah.
be able to really figure out what or who they are this year. So on this one, I'm gonna go straight with my model.
Okay. Yeah, so this is one where I'm a little bit cautious about on my side. I've got Tennessee winning this game by 1 point.
Hmm.
And, kind of like I was talking about with the lineups with the younger guys, they lag in boosting their ratings. It goes the other way with the older guys, where they're slow to drop their ratings. And I think Tennessee has some guys like Tannehill, DeAndre Hopkins, and maybe even Derrick Henry, dare I say it, that could be lower than what lineups has them at, and maybe that's the difference maker in this game. But I'm going to stick with the model. I'm going to show Tennessee getting the win on the road. I'm hoping they do it. I like Vrabel, and I'd like to see him come out of the gate with a win so he's not immediately in the pressure cooker. But logic is telling me the Saints roster is better, and it's weird that the model has it flipped. But I'm going to go with Tennessee. Next up, we've got the 49ers at the Steelers.
This one is a game that made me say, "What the fuck is wrong with my model?"
Okay.
I'm actually
100
gonna
point spread.
actually my model has Pittsburgh winning this game 27-17.
Ooh, wow, that's a big spread, man. I mean, it's in Pittsburgh, and I think Pittsburgh is set up to be a dark horse this year. But I never would have expected to hear a 10-point spread. So yeah, walk me through that. What can you tell me?
I don't
It
know. I can't
was
figure.
Bosa out in your model?
No, because I double checked it. Bosa wasn't out. It has Purdy as quarterback. I mean, coaching's even. I don't know. I
Okay,
just don't know.
just a heavy home field advantage, and maybe
I have
Kenny
no.
Pickett,
I have no. My model has no variable of
home
where the
field.
game's being played, home field in it.
Okay. All right, so you're going Pittsburgh. I'm going the other way, which is weird because you got the 49ers with the monster record, but
Hmm.
uh, I'm going 49ers by 3, and I'm with you though. I could see Pittsburgh getting a win. Um, I think it helps that Bosa's going to be playing, although I did hear there's some injury concern going on with George Kittle. And then with Brock Purdy, it's a pretty serious thing he's coming back from with that elbow injury and that elbow surgery. And so, we
And
kind
that
of got to see that he can pick up where he left off. And so, at the end of the day, I
that's
could see it going either way, but I'm going with the 49ers. That's what my model's saying. It's week 1. I got to stick with it.
yeah, and that's probably why my model has such a wide spread is because of concern for Purdy and coming back from the injury. That's the only thing I could come up with.
Okay. Well, we'll talk more about it next week, I'm sure. Next up, James, we've got the Cardinals at the Commanders.
I j- First of all, I was surprised my model had Arizona scoring 13 points in this game.
Oh,
I was shocked that Arizona wasn't the lowest scoring team in my model. I still have the Commanders winning this game. I think and this winning by a touchdown. So that might be a little bit of my bias coming out of my model. But I'm not hedging that. I think Washington is the better team, and your model shows the same. as mine on Washington being the better team. I don't know how much better your model has them, but I'm going with Washington.
Okay. So this one is, I'd say tricky, but not tricky. Not tricky because I've got Washington no matter what. Tricky because there's so much quarterback uncertainty in this game. With it looks like Josh Dobbs is going to start for Arizona, and then Sam Howell. We don't have a very good sample size of him in regular season games yet. Um, when I look at my heat map, Arizona is actually green on the offensive line and at the defensive back four, but Washington, I think, has better defensive backs. It's just that they're younger, and the model needs to catch up to that. But I think they got to prove it on the field before the model's going to do that. And so my model has a fairly big range. It is tight as 10 games, which is still or 10 points, which is still a big win. But if I juice up some of the defensive backs for Washington and do some of the things that I think are appropriate, I could see Washington winning by as much as 18 in this game. But it seems aggressive until we see how we'll do it and that defense do it. And so, in any event, I'm picking Washington. I'm just not as confident on what the score is going to play out as.
Hmm.
Next up's the Packers at the Bears, man.
This is another game that, um, on my model, it made me think, what the fuck is going on with my model? Ironically, there were two scores in my model. There were four games that had. We're going to say this right. So I had this score on this game the exact same as the score I had for the Pittsburgh San Francisco game, 27-17, just flipped,
Okay,
where Green Bay was winning 27-17.
gotcha. And that's
Um,
despite you hating Jordan Love so much.
yeah, this one I can attribute to I can because when I dove down into the numbers, it's really almost 100% attributable to um the trend that
Okay.
that happens with them. And so when I go into the trends, it's like Green Bay constant against the spread, against everything. And I think it's where my model is taking two. Nope, that's not it. That's not it either. I don't know what my model. Oh, it's Chicago. It's not on Green Bay. It's on Chicago side.
Okay.
Like the straight up record, the um as a favorite, the straight up as a home team, 7 losses in a row, straight up. Um,
Yeah, they've got some proving of themselves to do.
yeah. Uh, they are straight up 8-2 as a favorite, and 7-3 as a home favorite, but that's probably less recent than like this. But I think it was the 7 losses in a row at home is what pushed it that way. I Because of what I could see in like the trends that are being taken into my model, I felt comfortable overriding this one, even
Sure.
though it was a 10-point spread in my model. So I'm on Chicago in this game. I'm hesitantly on Chicago because
Yeah, because your model
by
has it going 10
yeah,
points to Green
exactly.
Bay.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, so I was interested to see what my model was going to do in this game, and it's got it tight. It has it Chicago by 2 points. And so Green Bay is dominating the heat map in all position groups except at quarterback and wide receiver. And so, you know, just like I mentioned earlier, you got to be cautious with Chicago because it's all about offense for them. The
Hmm.
defense, yeah, they brought in some linebackers, but they still have a lot of holes. It's all about Fields and what he's going to do here. And so, with it being in Chicago, I'm going to go with the Bears, but it's going to be a tight one. Next up, we got the Raiders at the Broncos.
This is what I have this score is 21-20. I have another game as 21-20 also, and that's what I was trying to say. I have two scores that are repeated in two different games. Or yeah, two different games. I have COVID, leave me alone.
I
I
wasn't
have
picking on you, man.
I have Vegas winning this game 21-20. Part of it has to do with how down I am on Russ,
Yeah.
and I think that bias is coming out in that score. But Russ has to prove it to me before I come back up on him, and so I'm gonna go with Vegas in it. I think Vegas is the better team, just slightly.
I got you. I got you. All right. Well, I'm going the other way. I'm going Denver. I've got them winning the game by 5 points. My model, when you look at the players going down both sides, has them very evenly matched. The difference is with coaching, and I will admit I like Sean Payton a lot, and I dislike Josh McDaniels a lot. And I'm probably giving Sean Payton more credit than I should, especially because he was out of the league for a year. But in any event, I'm going to stick with Denver. And if they lose, I will reevaluate, uh, probably both ways, maybe give a little more credit to McDaniels. But I'm going to go Denver for this one. Next up, James, we got the Dolphins at the Chargers.
This one I have as a 6 point um, game. I have the Chargers winning at 29-23. I want to be really high on the Dolphins, but the league really did them no favors by scheduling this game first
Yeah.
for them. I mean, the league. Actually, I'm going to rephrase this. I want to be high on the Dolphins, but the league really did them no favors in their schedule this year. They have a
Okay.
lot of like they open up with two road games. Three of their first four are on the road, including Denver, including Buffalo and New England, which uh, Chargers, New England, and Buffalo. Like I mean, it's just it's unfortunate. I'm on the Chargers. I'm way too far in on the Chargers this year, and it's probably gonna they're probably gonna charge her, but um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
But
stick
for
with
week one, you're taking them.
for week one. I'm taking them.
Okay. Well, I've got the Chargers here as well. My model really likes the Chargers. And I would say it also really liked them last year. But then they did their typical, like you said, they got Chargers, however you say that. They have injuries every year, and it holds them back. And then if it's not injuries, it's coaching or whatever it is. But on
Hmm.
paper, they should be one of the better teams in football. And so that's where it's interesting because my model has both of these as really good teams, but somehow it's showing an 11-point spread for the Chargers. I don't think that it can be that big of a spread because the Chargers never play to their full potential. But also, I really like Vic Fangio coming in and coaching that Miami defense. I think he's going to help them get it into high gear and he'll keep it tighter. But I still got the Chargers coming out on top. Next up, we got the Eagles at the Patriots.
All right, are you ready for this one?
I am. I am.
I have
You're going with a tie. Oh,
I have both teams in the Super Bowl. lose from last year, losing week 1.
Mm,
My model has New England 21-14.
okay.
I dove into the numbers and I was like, okay, so is it like a streak thing? Like is like recent history for both teams go to New England? No. Recent matchups go to New England? No. I don't I could not find a logical explanation for why my model has 21-14 in this game besides the Belichick factor.
Okay.
Phil, Philadelphia, I don't know what to make of their coaching staff because they
Yeah,
have
with the
all
two
new offensive,
coordinators.
all new
Yeah.
defensive coordinators, and so that I think is pulling them down in my model. But I'm gonna go with New England because I could come up with an argument for why Philly could win the game, but I couldn't come up with an argument that wasn't based on emotion.
Sure.
So I'm going to stick with New England. Even though I sent you Philly, I'm going
I
to
just changed it,
go with
but
New
yeah,
England.
you can flip it back if you need to or whatever. But yeah, so I've got Philly here, and my model has it as another wide one. It has it by 11 points. And I this is one where I have a hard time telling if that's too much or not enough or whatever because I think Philly on paper is one of the best teams in the league, even
Hmm.
with some of the changes that they've had on defense. It's just that New England is hard to get a grip on. We know that New England is going to be really stout on defense. It's just a matter of whether or not they can reestablish themselves on offense now that they brought in a real coordinator. And so I think Philly will be fine even with those coordinator changes. Um, and I feel pretty good that they're going to win. I'm just not sure what the point spread is going to be. And so I'm taking Philly. I just put an asterisk next to that 11 on the spread. Next up, we got the Rams at the Seahawks.
So I'm, as we could tell from my power rankings, I'm really down on the Rams. I think Stafford can come back from injury, but especially with Cup being out and
Oh
like,
man, in the comments about Stafford not being able to connect with the players, that's not
uh-huh,
good, man.
exactly. With all that's going on, even though I think Seattle last year was a bit of an what's the word I'm looking for? Bit of a they outplayed their
Overperformer.
talent.
Yeah.
Overperformer, thank you. Um, damn COVID brain. I have I was surprised it was as close as it is in my model, and by close it's 8 points. But I'm on Seattle heavy on that game.
Okay. Yeah, this one was interesting for me. I've got Seattle as well, but it was only by 4 points. And so I think this is one of the ones where the younger players are not quite where they need to be in the ratings. And
Hmm.
then the older players, which are like maybe the Aaron Donalds and the Staffords of the world, are probably a little higher rated than they should be. And so the Rams probably got to come down even more, which is hard for me to bring them down more because I've already got them pretty low. But
Yeah.
either way, I'm taking Seattle here. Down to our last two, man. So for Sunday night, we've got the Cowboys at the Giants.
So this is the other 21-20 game I had in my
Okay.
model. And this one lined up with the road team having 21, which was weird. The other one had it flipped. So I I don't like either team. I can't stand the Cowboys. I think the Giants suck. I think Dak Prescott's overrated. Um, I'm on the Cowboys in this game. I'm not really rooting for them. If you force me to, I'll root for a tie in this game, but I'm going to
Sure.
pick the Cowboys.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I've got the Cowboys winning by 5. I think that if I had any faith in McCarthy at all, it'd probably be a bigger spread. But I just don't like him as a coach, and so
Mhm.
I dialed down his rating quite a bit. On the other hand, you know, I do like the Giants quite a bit, and I like Dable quite a bit, but I'm also trying to keep in mind that they're still a roster in progress, so to
Mhm.
speak. And so even though they made the playoffs last year and it was a great feel good story, talent wise, they still got some work to do. And so Dallas is a more established, talented team, and it's hard for me to not go that way. So I'm taking Dallas, man. All right, Monday Night Football, last one of the week. We got the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. Who do you like there, man?
Buffalo all day in this. I was
Buffalo.
Buffalo all fucking day in this. I have no faith in Rodgers. I don't know. I don't know what the offensive line for the Jets is going to look like. How much chemistry he really has with the players. Yeah, there was some what looked like chemistry with Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, yeah, Garrett Wilson.
Yeah,
Um, in the preseason um,
limited two
game,
drives or
limited
whatever.
action.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's fake. Like I'm
Yeah, as
not
soon as
high.
something goes wrong for Rodgers, we're going to see that stupid look on his face where he's
Uh-huh.
disappointed in everybody but himself.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm on Buffalo. I It will be a while probably before I actually legitimately pick the Jets to win a game. Not really. I have them probably winning next week. But
Okay.
no, I actually have them starting 0 and 4.
Gotcha. Well, you only had him at 7 wins, so I can see that.
Yeah. Their first win is week 5 at Denver.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I've got Buffalo here as well, and this is one where my model has it by 10. I am trying to personally rein it in because Buffalo looked very dicey in preseason, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And then we
Hmm.
know they made the change at defensive coordinator with Leslie Frazier going bye-bye and Sean McDermott going to call the defense this year. Um, I also feel like Rodgers is like reinvigorated and going to try to do the best he can possibly do with the Jets. But I still believe Buffalo gets the win here, and so I'm taking Buffalo. I'm just not sure it's going to be by 10. So, okay, so that gets us through the game picks, James.
Do we have
It
to
was
do
nice.
Thursday?
Oh, shiitake. Yeah, because we're probably not going again until the following Friday, isn't that right?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Give me next Thursday, man.
All right. So next Thursday is the Vikings at Philadelphia. This game was played at Minnesota last year. Trying to remember who won. I think Philly. I think Minnesota won the game.
Was it late in the year when Hertz was hurt?
No, it was no, it was Philly that won the game. It was early in the year. Um, it was. Let me get back to it. It was week 3. No, was it week 4? No, it was really early in the year. It was a close game. That was like a Monday. Anyways, oh, now this is gonna drive me nuts. So I'm gonna find it.
Sure.
I thought it was early in the year. Apparently not.
Yeah,
Uh,
while you're looking, I'll just tell you I'm going Philly, and I'm not even
yeah,
going to overthink it. I've got Philly as one of my top teams in my model. Packers, I've got like sort of in the middle to the bottomish, and so without
oh,
analyzing it, I'm going Philly.
never mind. It wasn't a close game. Philly won 24-7 at Minnesota. It was
Okay.
week 2, and it was a Monday night. I was right. It was a Monday night game, but it was week 2.
Damn it, Cousins. Win those
Cousins,
primetime games.
yeah, Cousins actually had. Wait a minute. That is. Hold on. Did Cousins lead? No. I got to see something because it's Cousins led Minnesota in rushing
Oh
in
boy,
that
that's
game.
not good.
He had 20 yards rushing, and that was the most.
Oh,
Dalvin Cook had 17, Jalen Rager had 17, and Madison had 8.
yeah, that's not good when Cousins is your leading rusher.
Exactly
Oh,
my point. I'm on Philadelphia all day and all night on that game.
all right.
And plus it's another primetime game, and
Cousins
we
in prime
we know what
time.
happens
Don't
with
mix.
Cousins and primetimes. It just doesn't mix.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I'm gonna go
The
with Cousins,
Eagles.
or with not Cousins, with the Eagles, with Cousins to choke again in primetime.
All right. Now we can move on. So,
Yes.
question of the week time, James. I want to ask you, regardless of what your model says, because I know we're trying to base our wins in our predictions off of our model. But, you know, regardless of the model, so just looking at different narratives that you're seeing out there, I want to know what teams you think should be on upset alert going into week 1. And not to be ridiculous here, but I'm going with Kansas City. You're picking the Lions to win. So me saying City should be on upset alert, probably not that big of a deal. I think a lot of people would assume the Chiefs would just win that game. But um, when I look into what's going on here, we know Detroit's riding high, whether it's warranted or not. Kansas City has a few issues at play. You've got Kelsey likely out with that bone bruise. You've got Chris Jones out with that contract dispute. You also have very young and unproven wide receivers. And yes, I get it. Mahomes can make it work with anybody. But when you also look at that offensive line, I see the 2 tackles for the Chiefs on the weaker side of the spectrum. And I think that the Detroit defensive ends could potentially capitalize on that and get pressure on Mahomes, making it very difficult for him to utilize these younger wide receivers. And so, I think beyond that, I think Detroit, you look at what they did with the offensive line, you look at what they did with the running backs, they could ground and pound a lot of this game, keep it close, wait for the defense to maybe capitalize on some sacks or some turnovers, and then just offensively, slow and steady, win the race. And so I think it could happen. I think there's a number of games where this kind of thing could happen, but I had to go with the Lions here, man. Why don't you give me one?
So I'm going to stay away from the upsets that I'm predicting
Okay.
because that's just easy fodder.
Just
Because
built in the model. Yeah.
yeah, the team it's so when I look at the spreads, there's not that many big spreads. There's a lot of close spreads. It's like you have a couple games like the Commanders are favored by 7, or the Ravens are favored by 9.5. But everything, we have like a 5.5 here. Everything is within, everything but 1 or 2 games is within a score.
Okay.
So that would tell me that every team that's favored this week should be on upset alert.
Yeah, something could happen. Just
I'm not
one
gonna.
bad drive.
That's not I'm not gonna cop out and say every team should be on upset alert because I'm going to go with the Ravens.
Okay.
The the product that is the Houston Texans is really an unknown. D'Amico Ryans, I have a lot of respect for him as a coach. I have a lot of respect for the aggressiveness.
Hmm.
And if that aggressiveness he showed in the draft comes out on the field, it could take opportunities away from the Ravens to possess the ball and score. Going for it on fourth down, onside kicks, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just being super aggressive because in theory, on paper, they shouldn't be in this game really. And if and when you do the aggressive, it's really a flip of the coin, but you're tilting the advantage to your side because the aggressiveness is will put the Ravens on their heels a little bit, thinking they have to score more, put more pressure on Lamar to pass the ball. And if the Texans get up at all in the game, my concern is Lamar coming back. And I'm not talking about first drive, first quarter. Like if they're up after halftime in the game, it's going to put pressure on
Yeah.
Lamar to come back, and he hasn't proven he can do that.
Mm-mm.
And I think they can, by being aggressive, they can put that pressure on Lamar and make Lamar make mistakes. And that's how the Texans could beat the Ravens.
No, I like that narrative, yeah, because Lamar does have some signs of immaturity, like you're saying. If he gets behind, things aren't going his way, he has a little tantrum and it just doesn't work out. He kind of implodes. And so, okay, I like that one, man. Did you have any other teams that you wanted to hit on, or you good with that one?
I I would this my second choice would have been the Raiders
Okay,
because if Russ, which I don't think he can cook,
yeah, let's just say
but
him and Sean
let's say
Payton are actually legit.
yeah, let's say they're legit, then we're discounting Denver a lot more than we should.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, because then they could be they could be a playoff team
Uh-huh.
if they can legitly rekindle that fire. So okay, I got you. Well, yeah. So I mean, hey, for people who are watching, much like Name That Stadium, hit us up, answer our question of the week. We want that interaction. You can do it on YouTube. You can do it on Facebook. We have the Gridiron Grinder website. You can do it on there. Or, a million podcasts. We're on like 5 different platforms. I don't always check those comments because I don't know that we ever get any, but you could be the first one. So just do it. Uh, yeah, I mean, hey, that's all I got for tonight, James. You have any closing thoughts, my man? Oh, you know what? I almost forgot. We gotta talk about a
Our
little
bet.
bet.
Yeah.
So what were we doing? $100 of whiskey?
Yeah, I think that's what we were doing.
You want to just keep pushing it forward?
I'm good with that.
Okay. If it
One of
ain't
these
broke, don't fix it.
one of these days, California will legalize sports betting and we
We can
can
switch it.
we can switch and do something do our scoring or do the bet a little different, but yeah, I'm good with that.
All right. Yeah. For now, we'll keep kicking that can down the road, man. So that's good with me. All right. Well, yeah. Aside from that, man, you got any closing thoughts?
No, I don't think so. That my closing thought was going to be what is our bet, but
But I caught it at the
you
last second.
caught it at the last second. So,
Okay. All right. Well, hey, game on. And yeah, hey, I'm pumped up for tomorrow. And, anybody who's watching, we hope you like the show. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And, we're doing this every week. So we'll be back next week for week 2 power rankings and game picks. James, I'll catch you later, man.
that sounds good. Have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.